Hey y'all, welcome to Keeping It Real Estate with Kristen. I'm Kristen Goyette. I'm a mortgage loan originator, and this podcast is about all things real estate. And the goal is to just educate and enlighten our audience about different aspects of the real estate world. We hope to have a variety of different guests throughout the time of this episode, or not this episode, but this podcast series. And today we have a realtor with us from Kinston Realty, so a local, Mr. Lee Howell. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're excited to have you.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So just tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey into the real estate world.
Well, I'm born and raised in Kinston.
Okay.
Everything started here. My family's from here. Moved off and had a long career in another industry, and retired.
Okay, what did you retire from?
Retired from Farm Bureau, North Carolina Farm Bureau Insurance Company.
Oh, wow,
For 29 years.
So you were kind of in a real estate world.
Yes, insured a lot of houses and a lot of everything. But
okay, cool.
Mostly in eastern North Carolina. I was in New Bern my last years.
Okay.
But after retirement and working like I did work, and with my drive, I found out retirement didn't sit good for me. I needed something to do.
Gotcha.
But I wanted to kind of do it at my pace and on my time. Mm-hmm. And real estate has fit that perfect for me. And moving back home, reuniting with a lot of people that I've known, right. I think that's been a help as well. It's kind of having a home market, even though I'd been gone for 20 years.
Right.
So, but I love it because of the fact it works for me, because I'm able to work it at my pace.
Right. And so how long have you been in the real estate world now?
About 22 months, okay. Almost 2 years.
Awesome. So you were here when the things were
I came in when it was blowing up, when it was really blowing up.
And what was that like being a rookie real estate agent?
It was frantic, really, because you get your license and you know the legal stuff, what to do, but you still don't know how to apply it, and you've got to learn what to do and the steps you got to go through. And everything was moving so fast.
Yeah.
People would call you today and they wanted to buy something right then. And the market was moving that quick. They needed to.
Right.
So I had to kind of turn it up a notch and get on board or get out.
Yep.
And that was a challenge that hit me, and I love a challenge. So I jumped in with both feet and said, let's learn this stuff and give me the opportunity to help some people get into a home, because I think a home buying is probably the largest purchase you make, and it's something everybody has a goal or should have a goal to purchase and own their own home.
Agreed.
And I just grew up that way, and I still believe that's one of the major priorities or successes that a person has when they get to my age is having a home.
Right.
That's home.
My husband and I got married very young, and so back then, when everything was happening, we were pregnant and married and starting our life at the young ages of 17 and 18. I never thought I'd own a home. I mean, neither one of us came from very wealthy backgrounds anyway, so the thought of owning a home really wasn't there. But as we got older and educated and lived our lives, that's the one thing that we definitely wanted to do. Couldn't wait to own our own property. Obviously, we had rented along the way and bought our first home at 23.
That's great.
Since then, we've bought 4 homes, sold 3 homes. But like you were just saying about the crazy market, our last house sold in 30 hours.
Right.
It was insane to us. We were just like, whoa, this is crazy. But so what's been your biggest strategy you feel like that you've been implemented since you've become a real estate? Because you're a pretty successful guy to be in it for only 2 years.
I think I've had very good luck.
Right.
It is luck in some ways, but in some ways you got to put yourself in the right position and be ready when you get to knock on the door. But I think going through everything I've done in previous careers, and it's always been dealing with people.
Yep.
I've really never had a job where I punched a clock. And I was just there for 40 hours. I've always been in the people business. Mm-hmm. And those things you learned back then hold true in this. People want to know that you care about them.
Right.
They want to trust you, and they want to know that you're going to do the best you can for their benefit.
Absolutely.
People really want things that benefit themselves, and if you can help them, and if they trust that that's what you're out to do, is benefit them. I've always, in my previous career, you didn't have a problem with customers, and I've kind of brought that into this same real estate business.
Right.
Is treating customers right, like I'd want to be treated.
Absolutely.
Caring about their needs and what's important to them. And when I meet customers, that's the way I talk to them. Is
Right.
I want to know what's important to you, and then I want to explain what I'm going to do to get those things accomplished for them. And when I first started, like the market was so fast, they wanted it right then. Mm-hmm. But I don't do fast. I like to be thorough.
Right.
I feel like I'm better at peace because I'm taking care of my customer. I'm not missing things. Mm-hmm. I'm catching everything I need to catch that's important to them. Whether they know it or don't think it's important, it could be very important to them.
Right.
I just want to take my time and make sure we cover all the bases.
Absolutely.
And that was hard to do when I first started.
Yes.
But I think once I sit in and talk to people, they realize that, it's in their best interest to really take a serious look at what they're trying to accomplish and take the measures to do it right.
Right.
And along the way, you'll find out some things that in the process of a real estate transaction that, when they come back and say, well, I'm glad you advised us to look at that.
Right.
I'm glad you advised us to think about that. And usually you find that out on the back end. But that's what makes it worthwhile when at the end of the day, when you score and when everybody gets in the end zones and all the celebrations going at closing, that your customer really appreciates that you did take the time and you took the extra. You did
Right.
the extra.
The extra money.
I was taught the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is only the extra.
Right.
So that's what makes it extraordinary, is doing extra for people. And if you do that, I think people will do business with you.
Absolutely. So do you have special advice that you give to folks when they come to you? I mean, what's your process with
if they're looking to list a home, and I have a talk with them and I explain kind of how I work, because they need to know how I function and what makes me tick.
Right.
And if that doesn't work for them, I'd rather know up front.
Absolutely.
And they'd rather know up front. But this is kind of how I work and how I go and how I see things. If we're looking at listing, I want to make sure that I do the right preparation. Mm-hmm. Preparation is key to whatever you do, because once you present it, you've already presented it. It's kind of like opening the curtain on opening night of a play.
Right.
You got to practice and be right when it opens up, because those people who see it the first night are going to tell people that's coming the second night, and I want a good opinion.
Right.
So I do a lot of preparation. I think that's key. That's been key for my success, is preparing that listing and doing as much studying the market in that area, that location, this particular type of home, what has been happening in the market with that particular type of home. So I've got a good realistic idea of what's going to happen when we put this house on the market.
Right.
When we do present it.
Right.
And what I'm looking for is that day that it goes live and it's open on NMLS and it's live to the public, that everything is possible being right as much as it can. Exactly. It always don't work out, right. But working to do that so that showing is good when it first comes up.
Right.
And once they understand that that's what I'm after, and that's really their goal, is when it does come on the market and it is presented to the public, to the market, that everything is right and it looks good.
Right.
And once they feel that way, then we kind of develop a relationship and we move on from there. Yep. And it's worked good so far. With people buying on the buyer side, I've had people I met at 10 o'clock in the morning, first time I've ever saw them, and it just met them, and at 10:20 they're wanting to make an offer. It's kind of like, let's look at some stuff first. But that's the way the market was, and on that side of it, you want to make sure that things that they really want that are out to get are included in this property. They like a check sheet, a checklist. You know, there might be 10 things. Well, this house may have 8 of them. In order to get 10, you might have to build your house.
Right.
So if it's got 8, and there I talk about a seesaw, you know, if one area is down, if I keep adding things of this house that benefit them, the value is going up. Because when one side of the seesaw's down, the other side's up.
Right.
So as it keeps building, I'm looking to get to a 10.
Yep.
If I get it at 7, 8, or 9, that's probably as good as we're going to get. Now, we feel comfortable about the property we're looking at. Let's talk about an offer. So at that point of time, they feel more comfortable, and that was good in the values of homes the way they have been,
right.
because it built the value in the home. You know, so the pricing was not a fictitious or an overpriced home. It built the value in the home, and for them, you know, it might not be good for the next folks, but it was good for them.
Right.
So that's kind of the way I handle listings for sellers and buyers.
Awesome.
And you know, I just want to explain the way that I'm going to carry them through the process, because it is a process. The time we start talking to the time we leave the lawyer's office and they've got the keys.
Exactly.
There's a lot of stuff in that process.
It's a very tedious process.
You know, there's a lot of steps, pieces to the puzzle, as I call
Exactly.
it. And I tell them that, you know, sometimes they don't have a lender. You know, they don't know anything about a home inspection. They don't know who to do that. Who's going to do that for them? Termite inspections. So you have to navigate them and lead them through that process.
Exactly.
And I try to lead them through people that I have a good relationship with, because I feel like they will build that same relationship with those folks.
Right.
And they believe me that when I refer them to somebody, that's a person they can trust. So I build a lot of my daily activities on trust. Yep. You know, if I trust in you, then I'm going to use you.
Right.
And I think Kinston, our little market here, or not, it ain't little anymore, but I think Kinston has a tremendous amount of access to people and to things that we do trust. Right. We know a lot of people, and I think that's a plus to our market.
I agree.
Is knowing people personally.
That's right.
And saying, you know, you can trust this person. They're going to carry you through the lending process. They're going to carry you through the home inspection process. But whatever he says to do, that's what you need to do.
Right.
So that's kind of the way I do business. And I'm lucky to be with a good firm here that allows me to work at my pace.
Right.
And to kind of freelance and do it that way. And I'm sure everybody does it different. In the real estate business, it is not a set way that everybody has to follow.
And that's what makes it so great.
That's what makes it.
That way you can people can find you that mesh well with you, and vice versa. And so how many families did you serve this past year?
I've had 14.
Awesome.
And that was from January, you know, the full year.
Okay.
And that's about the pace that I like.
Right.
I mean, really, that's over one a month. But there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, like, there's more than just somebody calling tomorrow and me at 9 o'clock and having their house listed by 4 o'clock tomorrow. That's too much.
Right.
There's more into it than when a sign goes up in the yard. There's a lot of groundwork and legwork that has been done prior to that. Exactly. When that sign turns over, there's a lot of legwork that goes through that.
Right.
And I like to stay with my customer through the process. Sometimes I'm talking to them daily for weeks at a time.
Right.
Follow through in the process rather than getting it done and moving on to somebody else. I feel like I've left them out in the cold, especially if a first-time buyer, which really needs a lot of attention and care. And so you walk them through the process of maybe 4 to 6 weeks. And then I can move on, and I put all my focus on the next customer.
I like that.
That's just, and I'm blessed to be able to do like that, to work like that.
Yep. My daddy always said, quality takes time.
That's right. That's right. So, but I'm very fortunate to be able to work at that pace. I have, like I said, when I first started, you do have There were times where you had 3 or 4 transactions going on at the same time,
Right.
and you're juggling this and you're bouncing that, and which I worked at that pace for a long time.
Yeah.
And I really like kind of doing maybe not so many multitasking, but taking 2 or 3 things and working on them and keeping them straight, because the wheels can come off the wagon pretty quick if you
they
don't pay
can.
attention to it.
That is very
and,
true.
And I really just want to take care of my customer, and I think
Right.
if you take care of enough people, I always heard they take care of you.
Absolutely. What's been your biggest challenge recently? You can't say interest rate.
No, interest rates is not a challenge to
And
me.
we kind of talked about that earlier today.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I heard is, when interest rates were so low, what's going to happen when it goes up? What's going to happen when it goes up? But I found a way mentally to get around that, and I believe in what I see, in that interest rates are no ways a problem to me. And I explain this to my customers. Interest rates were at a historical bottom, I'd say 2.5% to 2.7%.
Right.
So, there again, I'm back on my scale. Interest rates are here. Price of the house was up here.
Right.
And a lot of times that price of the house people were paying more than what the house was listed for.
Exactly.
Okay? I remember when interest rates were 18%.
Right.
So, price of the house was down here. So, now that the interest rate is 6%, we'll say,
Right.
that margin up here has come to here.
Yep.
So I really believe the public is getting a fair purchase on the house. The seller's getting a fair price for his house. The buyer's getting a fair price for it.
Right.
And interest rate is historically still good.
Low. Right.
The first house that I had a transaction on, the interest rate on that house when it was bought was 18.25%.
Wow.
6% is great.
But like you said, the interest rate was crazy, but the housing price was so
low. So
your seesaw method again.
So now that housing market has come down from above asking price to asking price is leveled out
Right.
to really a reality price range.
Right.
I feel, and you're getting a good rate of return on it,
Right.
and I'm hearing 5.5% to 6.5%, and that depends on a lot of factors, but that's still historically a good rate. And the thing about buying the house is the purchase price of the house is done. That's a one-time deal. If you get into a home today at 6%, it may be a 30-year fix, but that's not locked in forever, because you may come back 5 years from now and refinance it at 3.5%. Well, your house price didn't change. You didn't have to buy the house again at a higher rate.
Right.
You just lowered the rate on the money that you already had.
Exactly.
So it can only get better, so really at 6%, it could get worse, and I'd lock in at 6%.
Right.
I'd buy a lot of stuff at 6%. From my
told me earlier
experience,
you
I'd
were-
buy the city of Greenville, is what I told you earlier, if you'd give me 6% on it, because I could make 9%.
Absolutely.
So I'll take that deal.
Absolutely.
And I think when you think of it that way, the 2.75 was just a phenom.
It was
You know,
insane.
so don't, always when you look at numbers, throw your highest one out and throw your lowest one out.
Right.
Take the rest of the balance and do your average there.
You
Because
full of
in
knowledge.
sales, you could have a year that you sold 100 customers.
Right.
But the 10 years before that, your average has been 40
Right.
for the last 10 years. On year 11, you sell 100. Well, don't set your goals on year 12 for 100. Set it somewhere around 40. If you get 100, that's great. But,
Absolutely.
throw the low one out and the top one out. And that's what I'm talking about, interest rates.
Right.
And it has helped adjust pricing and sales prices.
Right.
And I have a lot of people say, well, I'd like to sell my house now, but if I sell my house now, I've got to buy another one.
Right.
And I'm going to buy another one at a higher end, and I'm going to buy it at a higher rate. Well, I come back and say, well, how long have you owned your house? I said, well, 20 years. Well, you didn't get the good rate anyway.
Right.
At 20 years, your rate's going to be the same or probably better than you got 20 years
Right.
ago. So, but if your house that you're in now is 2-story and you want to downsize and the stairs are giving you a problem, to be happy,
Right.
get something on one level and make yourself happy for the rest of your life. Don't stay in a house that you got to walk upstairs the rest of your life if that's not good for you.
All over an interest rate.
All over an interest
Right.
rate. And the interest rate is something that somebody like you can keep an eye on it and stay in contact with folks and say, hey, this thing is dropping.
Right.
It's a good time for you to move and let's refinance it.
Exactly.
And that gives you a logbook of customers that you can continuously, call as things change.
Absolutely.
And they will change.
Yep, they will. They absolutely
They will change. So, what I've seen is when the market had the low interest rate and the low inventory, the value was very high.
Right.
So as now, as I mentioned, when interest rate had moved up a little bit, the value came down. As inventory has increased, the same way on my seesaw again,
Yeah.
as that bottom tier has started to rise now with inventory, that value has gotten more fair.
Right.
So that's two factors that have affected your purchase price.
Exactly.
And both of them are in your favor. I feel like for a new buyer.
Right.
And there's a lot of folks that are renting. The rental market is very short.
Yep.
Very low inventory. That's, again, affecting rental rates.
I think the National Association of Realtors said that 40% of Americans are still renting.
That's an astronomical number. It's hard to believe.
It is.
That means only
mind-blowing.
6% owning property. 6% owning property, but there's so many options that a person or a family that's renting can do today.
Right.
Back in my day, there was one or two banks that done mortgages. I mean, everybody didn't do. Now there's so many avenues
Right.
for mortgages and for lending,
Right.
especially for young people, for first-time buyers. There's all kinds of stuff out there.
Yep.
So somebody that's renting that's paying $600-800 a month in rent, they just need to step up and investigate
Right.
what is out there and what's available for me.
Yep. I helped a client the other day. She's going to save $200 a month buying her own home versus continuing to rent.
It's
and that's
unbelievable.
amazing.
That's unbelievable. I mean, $750 a month doesn't sound bad for 2 bedrooms and a bath and a half, but that's $9,000 a year. Right. 10 years, that's $90,000 a year. You've halfway paid for a house in Kinston.
Exactly.
So, and you own it. Exactly. And you move out in 10 years after paying $90,000, you got your furniture.
And speaking of first-time home buyers, and the FHA has lowered their insurance premium, so that's
Right.
wonderful. That's going to make home buying more affordable for folks, and so I'm excited about that.
And there's all kind of programs as far as I'll say just down payment. I'll say it's upfront money that gives bonuses or gives extra kicks for first time buyers and really any buyer.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff now that I think a lot of people think, well, I've got to have a ton of cash
Right.
or a ton of down payment to make a purchase of a home. Mm-hmm. Don't let that stop you.
Right.
What I can say is go investigate,
Right.
go research it, call somebody that you can trust. There's somebody here with me today that you can surely trust. Just let them tell you what you're available to do.
Exactly.
But not asking and not knowing is not the right way to do. Never a wrong time to do the right thing.
What do you think prevents people from having a conversation with a lender
They're
just to see what you can do?
Just hesitant. They're hesitant about what you've got to look at personally.
Right.
That's confidential in order to tell me what I'm available to do.
Right.
And it's just that step that, hey, if I don't let somebody look at it, I'm always going to be where I'm at today.
Right.
If you don't change what you're doing, you'll always be what you're doing today.
Exactly.
So they've got to take that step and find somebody. I don't say do it with 10 different people, but find somebody and open up to.
Right.
And say, will you help me? If you can't help me today, maybe you can give me some advice, some tips on what I can do over the next year or 2 years to get me in a position where you can help me move from this situation to the better situation.
And that's one thing I do enjoy about being a mortgage loan officer is giving people an action plan if they can't do something right now.
And sometimes that's what they need, and I needed it when I was young.
Me too.
But if someone hadn't have told me and sat down and said, "Here's what you need to do," and laid out steps, I would have never, been able to do it because I couldn't do it on my own.
Right.
And I didn't know what to do.
Right.
So it's like going to the doctor. I know something's wrong and I don't like how I currently feel, but if I don't go to the doctor and open up and let him look at me and check me out,
Right.
I'm not going to change it.
That's right.
So doing nothing really is not the right thing. So, my advice to young people, any person that's renting that doesn't know is find somebody you can trust and go sit down with them and let that person help you. And it's going to take, that person's going to have to help you, but you're going to have to help that person and give them the information they need. It will be confidential. There's too many laws, rules, and regulations today.
True.
With things being privacy acts, there's too much today that is going to keep people in line and lenders and people in line that's keeping your stuff private. Right. It's highly regulated.
And I think lending's changed a lot. I mean, not that I know that from experience on the lending side, but on the buying side, I've been in the chair before where you're with the loan officer and they make you feel like you're a criminal for borrowing money. But I think now, especially being a commission only, I mean, I'm going to treat you like the king and queen that you are because I want your service.
Right.
And you're my bread and butter. Not just the only reason you're doing it, but it is a paycheck. I mean, this is what I do for a living. And so I just feel like people are more valued or treated like they're more valued nowadays than back in the day.
Well, back in the day, I didn't feel like the banker is where you went back in the day. I didn't feel like he had a mortgage, but he did. But I didn't. I couldn't. Right. I felt like he was so above where I was at that he didn't have a mortgage or need a mortgage.
Exactly.
But I guarantee, if you talk to a lender, ask the lender, do they currently have a mortgage? They've been through everything you've been through.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
They've had to be sitting where you're sitting.
Yep.
So, and if they're doing this business and lending, then they have a passion for it. Right. And they wouldn't be successful in it. They have a passion for helping people. So, and it's the same thing with real estate. Find somebody who has a passion to help you. And that you feel confident and that is going to be on your side and look out for your best interest.
Absolutely.
Through the process. There's just too much opportunity today for people to do better and to get things they want. They may have to do something for it. They may have to walk through some steps and climb some steps to get through it, but you have to want to do it bad enough.
But when you have skin in the game, don't you feel like it's a little more meaningful?
Oh, yeah.
Than when something's just handed to you?
Yeah, and that's an old saying, is anything you get for free is not as valuable to you as something you earned, something you accomplished yourself. Like you're talking about, we never thought we could buy a house when we were young, I come from the same thing. I never thought I would be able to go to the lawyer's office and sign a deed. But when you accomplish something like that for your first time, you can go outside and say, look what I've done.
It's very empowering.
I never thought I could do this.
Right.
And that opens doors to a lot of other areas.
Absolutely.
It could open doors to career opportunities that you would have never asked for an advancement. Right. But that positive and that confidence can open a lot of opportunities in other aspects of your life.
I literally went to a seminar where it was a realtor speaking, and he had a realtor partner there with him, and she decided to become a realtor because of her interaction with him. So, you're right. You never know where the home buying journey is going to take you.
And getting through that process, and anything that you work hard to get through, just has a life-lasting, in your mind. It stays with you.
Absolutely.
Accomplishment.
That's my goal, and that's why I wanted to get in the mortgage business, is because it is empowering, and I want to empower others, especially people who have come from humble beginnings, that you can do it. And especially here in America, I feel like you can just about do anything you're willing to go after. And maybe it's not going to be given to you, but if you work after it, you'll get it, whether it's a house or education or a car.
It shouldn't be easy,
Yep.
So good things don't come easy. So,
that's true. That's right.
But it's just, there's too much available out there. as far as the real estate market, there's houses that can be purchased and fixed up.
Right.
A lot of appreciation can be gained there from the homeowner. There's homes that are ready to move in.
Right.
That, you can leave a lawyer's table, close it, and you can have your U-Haul and your furniture in the parking lot, and you can drive and move in.
Right.
That's the home that is moving quick. That's the home that is still holding high value because of that. You don't have to fix anything. You don't have to turn a screw. You can leave the lawyer's office and have the power changed over. You won't even go spend a night there that night.
Yep.
Put your groceries in the cabinet and refrigerator. That's the home that I see has not slowed up.
Right.
So people that have a home like that, they shouldn't be, and we're talking about hesitation, they shouldn't be hesitant that if that home doesn't suit them now, they shouldn't be hesitant about making a decision to sell that property.
Right.
And on the buyer side, if that's what you're looking to a move-in ready, I can't fix anything. I will tear it up. And so anything I try to fix, I'll break. So if that's what you're looking for, then find somebody that you can deal with and move as quickly as you can, right, because those homes are still going quick, and there's a lot of competition out there for those type homes.
And so if you have a home, you would say to those folks, if you have a home now, just to keep it up, take care of it for when the day comes that you do want to sell it, because that way it won't sit on the market. It'll just be gone.
Well maintained. Doesn't have to be updated with yesterday's newest bells and whistles. Well maintained, neat and clean, functional. Things work in it. Don't let it go down. Don't let something not work and let it just deteriorate other stuff. Keep your property in good shape. Right. If 6 months from now, 6 years from now, maintain your property. And that property, I think, in my opinion, like I say, I'm new at this, but what I've seen in this transition market, I think there's always a place for that home to be top shelf in the market.
Right, exactly.
Okay, it's kind of like a car, one that's running top notch doesn't have a problem moving,
Right.
So one that, everything on it's broke has a lot of lookers. So it's the same thing, it don't change. It's the same thing with your home. Maintain the yard, neat and clean. I've spent a lot of years going to people's houses in my previous career. And usually when I got out of the car, it's amazing what you can tell from the yard, the walkway, the shrubs, the bushes. I basically knew what the house was going to look like when I walked in.
Yeah, I was a home health nurse, and
it's amazing.
The yards match the homes a lot of the time. So,
and then, the last home that I listed, we sold in 5 days.
Oh, nice.
So, but like I said, you could move. All you need is the key.
Right.
You don't have to fix anything.
Just sign your name and give me the
Change
key.
the power and the water over and sign your name, here's the key. Nothing to be fixed. And that was a couple that came from California. Never met them. I dealt with them over the phone for about 5 months looking properties.
Right.
And they were in California wanting me to look and wanting me to send them pictures and me to walk through. And I didn't feel comfortable with that, really. I did that. But what I like, they might not like.
Right.
What I didn't see, they might have seen.
Right.
So we finally just agreed to let them sell their house first, and that's what it did, close, and they came here. When they came here, we had them a house in 3 days. So, and that's what they were looking, but I felt better and more comfortable with them seeing it, laying eyes on it, touching it, feeling it, going through it with me, rather than me just communicating back.
I know when our last house was on the market during the hot market, we had somebody that offered without even looking at it. I mean, I guess they saw the pictures, but yeah. I was like, you're going to spend that much money for a house you've not stepped foot in? That was weird. Of course, that's not the offer we accepted, but it was amazing that somebody would do that.
And people have done that, and a lot of people do it. I just, like I say, I felt like with these folks, and talking with them, doing them for 5 months, and looking at probably a dozen homes and relating that pictures and information back and forth, that it was better for them to see it.
Right.
And they agreed once they got here. And they were looking at a certain price range, and once they got here, what they found that in that price range was going to need a lot of work and need a lot of fixing. And that's what I kept hearing the first 2 to 3 homes we looked at is, well, this has got to be fixed, this has got to be fixed. And I looked at them, I said, you don't sound like you want to fix a lot. They said, we're ready to move in and start living.
Right.
Okay. From a real estate agent, that's when the bell needs to go off, the red light needs to come on. And a lot of times that's the one who makes the decision, is she
Very true.
said, we don't want to fix anything. I'm ready to start living.
Right.
So we went and looked at another house that was in move-in ready shape, out of their price range a little bit. And when they come out, they talked 15 minutes and said they would rather move up in price range than to have to go through the work of having repairs done and this fixed and this changed and be done with it and have their furniture sent from California and live.
Right, exactly.
So you got to listen
Absolutely.
to you folks.
So do you have a particular transaction, it might have been that one, but one that was like super meaningful to you?
That one was pretty meaningful to me because of the long term, the 5 months of dealing with them. But probably the one that was meaningful most to me is I met a couple. They called the office and got me on the phone, and they said they were from Dallas, Texas, and they were in Kinston, and they wanted to know could they see a couple of properties today. Oh, wow. So the property they had picked out. We went and looked at that, and I talked with them, and they had been living in a motor home for a year and a half.
Oh, my goodness.
During COVID. They sold out in Texas and had a motor home, a nice one. I mean, a real nice one. And they had been living in that motor home for a year and a half, and they just decided it was time to settle down. Had some health issues with backs and things like that. And they were in Greenville, and they came to Kinston. And they liked Kinston more than they did the biz. They wanted to settle
the
down.
hustle and bustle.
So we went and looked at another house that I found, and matter of fact, two houses. And the second house we looked at it and they loved it. Size, everything fitted what they needed, their checklist.
Right. Okay.
Price range, everything, size, just a married couple, elderly couple, not elderly but my age. That's pretty close.
No, it's not.
But and they walked out in the driveway and said, how long do you think this house will be on the market? And that was the day it was listed.
Oh.
The day it was listed is the day we looked at it. And that was on a Friday. And I said, I'm not trying to push you. I said, but the condition this house is in, the neighborhood it is in, the move-in ready situation.
Right.
The price range it's in, it won't be available Monday. It probably won't be available Monday, and it wouldn't have been.
Right.
And they looked at each other and said, well, can we go to the office and make an offer?
Wow.
But we became real close. Mm-hmm. They knew nobody.
Right.
They knew I was the only one person they knew in Kinston, and I just met them 30 minutes ago. So when you get somebody like that that's total strangers, then I feel like builds a trust in you that quick. Let you, and you stay with them through the process, and they need you for everything that they need. Mm-hmm. They don't know where to buy groceries, where to buy gas, where to get their tires rotated, where to get the vehicle serviced. They don't know anything about Kinston. And they put that much trust in you, and it all happened that quick. And that's what we did. We left the home and went to the office and made an offer. And when you make offers, a lot of times, we saw so many high offers. And everybody was in the mindset, well, I got to offer high. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not always the number that makes an offer strong.
Right.
Sometimes it's the conditions that really make an offer strong. Okay. So that's what you have to work with a customer and say, it is about the money, but let's look at the contingencies in the contract that's going to make our offer strong and stand out. Okay. And that's what we did, and the offer got accepted. We needed a lender. The whole process. Right. But, we've gotten to know them. Me and my wife have gotten to know them, and, we go out to eat and got to dinner. But it's just amazing to meet a stranger, and I was a stranger.
Right.
And I felt like I had done something right for a couple in that generation. Right. Coming from halfway across the United States to put trust in a little Kinston boy.
Right.
a hometown Kinston boy that nothing special, and they just put that much trust in me.
That's
that
awesome.
quick. Yeah. That's kind of what summed it up, and that makes you feel good.
Like you said, I mean, they didn't even know where to buy groceries at or anything. Yeah. That's cool.
They didn't know about the Captain Corner's hot dogs. So, but they do
so
now.
You let them know about
it. They do now. But, everything like this, it's amazing. You think about how in the dark they are. So they do need you.
Right.
And they don't just need you at the point of sale.
Right.
They need you, during the sale, during the transaction, and after the sale. And I would pretty much guarantee if somebody met them and a year from now wanted to know what realtor to use, I'd probably get a call.
Absolutely.
I would hope I would.
All about that relationship building.
So that's kind of what it's all about.
Well, tell us something fun or interesting about yourself.
Well, fun or interesting about myself. I've laid back a lot from my younger years. I'm a lot laid back now than I was, but I've always been pretty aggressive. I didn't understand the word no. I wanted to get more and do more, and I've just always strived and hit the ground running in the morning. I do it in everything I do. Mm-hmm. I love to fish. I love to hunt. I love to spend time with my family, spend time with my wife, and that's really what drives me now. Okay. Because when you're young and you're chasing the rabbit, I call it. A lot of times you miss out on the kids' ball games. You show up late. You get there early. You have to leave before it's over. You missed out on so much. But now, what really it drives me is not missing out. Mm-hmm. It's having those times to do things with family that you couldn't do when you were supporting that family.
Right.
When you had to do what you had to do, was day or night, didn't matter what Saturday, you had to go to support that family.
Right.
And now just having to switch gears and be there when they need you and go and spend time with them and do things. A lot of people probably don't know that's what my goal is now, is to key in and capitalize on that. At this point in life, they still see me as that driver and wide open, and I am. I go to work with a mission.
Right.
I want to get what I need to get done, and I start early and I finish early.
Gotcha.
I'm a list guy. I make my list. I mark my list off. I make two lists. I make a list of everything I want to do, and I used to make a second list of the most high priority thing to do first. Mm-hmm. And I learned a long time ago. When you make that first list, look at your list and the thing that you hate to do the most, do it first. Right. Because your day's got to get better as it goes on. Yep. So the last thing you do is the thing you love the best. So you go home with a good attitude.
It's called Eat the Frog.
Yeah.
Do that thing that you're going to put off. Just go ahead and get it done.
The one you hate, the person you hate to call the most, call them first. Right. And then the last thing on the list is the best thing. So when you go home at the end of the day, you're not going home to your family in a bad mood. You're going home with the right, mindset. Right. So, it's not that I want to say I missed that when my kids were young and in my early years, but yes, you do miss a lot of it. Mm-hmm. My days were 12, 14-hour days, right. But that's what it took. Mm-hmm. And my kids and family knows that. Right. But now I'm able to not do that. But that's kind of what turns me on now, is having that quality time and having the time to spend, in the right places.
Well, you have shared a wealth of knowledge with us today, and I'm just so thankful that you came on. Thank you so much.
Well, I hope I helped.
You absolutely did. And so if anybody out there watching wants to contact your quality self, how would they reach you?
Well, they can call me at Kinston Realty, or they can call or text me at my personal cell phone. Okay. And 252-639-1678.
Awesome.
Or get up with me at the office. The office will surely get in contact with me.
Awesome.
And
thank you so much.
Thank you so much for what you do and what you've done for me too.
Yes, I've
you've been a big
asset
for me to have in my gun belt.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate that. And thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.